Well, hello there, everyone. How's it going? This is Ali from the AI Enthusiast, and we're going to be talking about operators. This is part 2 of the operators lecture, and we are going to be covering the remaining portion of our document here. So before we start, please remember to actually take a look at this document. I have the link in the description. What you're going to do is you're going to open up that link, make a copy of this document, and then basically follow along. And the best way to learn is to practice, and that's why we have these documents, so you can use them and really get a sense of Python programming. All right, so let's get started, guys. So the first thing is we talked about last time, we talked about comparison operators, we talked about arithmetic operators as well. Now we're going to be talking about logical operators. So it's pretty straightforward, guys. A logical operator is something that will take in an AND, or it will take in a true or false value, and it'll spit out a true or false value. So again, remember when we talked about last lecture, how an operator is just, think of it like, let me make this a pen, but think of like having a box, and then you have an input inside of it, and then it gives you an output. So you can have one input or one output, or two inputs or one output. So what we're going to do is, if I have a true value, and then I have an AND is saying that both of the inputs have to be true in order for it to be true. Otherwise, it's false. So if I did true and true, then the result is going to be true. That is what the AND keyword does. So in Python, if you see over here, you'll see that A is true, B is false. When I do A and B, A has to be true and B in order for the result to be true. So because one of them is not, then the result is false. Now the OR is basically saying either of them could be true or false. Like basically, as long as one of them is true, it'll be returning true. And then not is it just negates it. It's a negation operation. So basically, if I have a not here, whatever the input is, so you'll notice not only takes in one input, whatever this value is, it's going to negate it. So if this is false, it'll be like, well, this is true. So you're like, well, that's great, Ali. What is the practical implementation of this? Like, where would I use this? So let's talk about that. So let's say you have A equals 10, B equals 3, and C equals 8. So I'm going to have, remember, these are variables. They're stored in memory. So I'm going to have A here. Maybe we'll put B there. We'll put C here as well. So A is 10. And you'll see B is 3 and C is 8. So this is 3 and this is 8. Okay, so we got our variables in memory. We've initialized them in memory. And then remember, the box's name is the variable name. So A, B, C. Now, what if I said A? Remember when we were talking about comparison operators last time? And we talked about how you can compare less than or greater than. So if I did, D, A is less than C. So is A is 10, C is 8. So is 10 less than 8? That's a false statement. So D is another variable now. In memory, let's just say it's stored here. It's going to be false. Okay. And now let's just say I have, let's take a look at our example. We actually did B is less than C. So B is 3, C is 8. So yeah, you're going to have 3 is less than 8. So D would be true in our example. So let's just make this a true statement. I'll do back. And I will type in true. And then remember, this is an operator we covered in the last lecture. Up here, you have arithmetic operators. This is the less than sign. So operators, remember guys, operators return data. So A is less than C, returns a value. It returns true in our scenario. We did B is less. We changed this to B is less than C. So I can take this, delete it, and then I can go to here and I can do B is less than C, and D is true. So B is gonna be, this is all true, it returns true, and then D stores true. And so now I'm gonna do E, and I'll say E is gonna be, scroll down here, A is not equal to C. So A is not equal to C. So remember, we also went over this in the last video. A is 10, C is 8. Remember, apostrophe equals means that it's not equal to it. We're saying, is this a true or a false statement? So 10 is not equal to 8, and that is a true statement. So E is another variable, the result of the not equals operator. So you have basically a box here, and it's not equals. We fed two inputs to it. And now the result is going to be stored in a true variable. The result is true, and it's going to be stored in E. So let me go ahead and put that in E right here. All right. Now, what if I took D and E and I said, oh, well, F is equal to D and E. And so there's going to be a label F, and then we have to check that both of these have to be true. In this case, they are. So then that would mean that we have F, and this is a true value. Okay, so that's how it's going to work, guys. So right here, B is less than C. So B is 3, C is 8, okay? And A is not equal to C, so this should return true. And it does. It's just connecting, but it's going to return true. So let's move on to assignment operators. So assignment operators, guys, are basically just, you know how we did A equals 5? Now we can do A equals A plus 1. So in our example here, A is 10. Now if I make this statement that A equals A plus 1, I'm basically saying A is 10, and we're adding a 1 to it. We get 11. This new value goes back into A. So we basically cross out the 10 and we put in 11. And that's what it's going on in the memory. And this is going to give, in this scenario, we have A equals 5. So this is going to give us 6. All right. So now what you can do is actually you can do this in the shorthand notation. I could have rewritten this as A plus equals 1. And it's just, it looks a little weird, but we're just saying that we don't have to write A again. So A, whatever it is, add a 1 to it. So if I did this, then I can print A. And what I'll do is I'll comment out this section. So A is 5, and we do A plus equals 1, A is 6. So now, just like we did plus equals 1, 1's a number, but I could do B is equal to 1. And then I could do A plus equals B. And it's really the equivalent of A equals A plus B, this statement right here. So you can do that. And so if I did A equals A plus B, in this scenario, we started with 10, B is 3. So A equals A plus B is 13, 10 and 3, 13. And then A would have been written as 13 here. It would have been stored into 13. So you're taking the data and you're signing it back in. And so this is just going through some examples. A plus equals 10, A plus equals B, so A equals 10 plus 3, and you store that back in, you get 13. You can go through these different examples. We can do minus equals, multiplication equals, division equals. Remember, the percent sign is remainder equals. This is the exponent. So A equals A raised to the power of B. And then this is integer division. So yeah, and this is optional. I would say you can always just write A equals A plus B in your code, and it's fine. But now let's go to membership operators finally. We're almost at the end of the video. I'm trying to make these videos a little bit shorter so it's a little bit more manageable. But yeah, so operators in Python, there's in and not in. So if you recall the lecture we talked about tuples or tuples, lists, and dictionaries, Remember, basically, to make a list, you have brackets. So A is a list here, guys, of numbers. And then in is actually an operator. It's going to take two values, and it's going to return a true or a false. So if I had to, I can just go ahead and clear this up. Ooh, I deleted the grid. Okay, so what I can do is it's an operator, so it's a box. Oops. Okay, so in is a box, and we're gonna do in. And it takes in two inputs. So this is a list now. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it's checking, we're asking, is 3 in A? So it's answering that question for us. Is 3 inside of A? It's going to return. It takes in two inputs. It gives us one output. It's a true or false value. 3 is inside of this list. So this is a true. And that's exactly how this works. Is 3 inside of A? True. 6 in A? No. Now you can also check if it's not inside of the list. So you can say, is 3 not in A? Well, clearly 3 is in A. So this is a false statement. It's going to return false. And the opposite is 6 not in A. Yeah, 6 is not in the list of A. So that's a true statement. And if I wanted to, like I have been doing, remember operators, inputs is just literally a box, and you have inputs and outputs. This whole lesson is just operators. An operator always returns something, right? So I could do C equals 3 in A. So this looks kind of weird, but we're saying there's a box, C, a variable, C, and we're going to basically use, is 3 inside of A? Well, that is a true statement. So C, the variable C, is going to now be storing the value true inside of it. So I can print C here. And there you go. The last value printed is true. All right, guys. So this is a summary of membership operators. And by the way, you can do this with tuples or tuples as well. So remember, tuples or tuples is going to be with parentheses. So I do 8, and maybe I can do apples, and I could do banana. And what I'll do is I can say apples in tuples. And I don't think that's a good name, but we'll just call that. I'll just do ABC, which is not it's actually a pretty bad name too, but still. And we print this. Apples is inside of A, which is a tuple or tuple. And there we go. And I think going forward, I'm just going to say tuple. It'll be a little bit easier. Also kind of sounds funny, so tuple it is. But yeah, basically ABC, this tuple does contain apples. But I could do like, I don't know, I could do pear. Is pear inside of ABC? No, that's false. So you can do it with lists, you can do it with tuple, you can do this whole thing with dictionaries, but I'm actually not going to go over that. Right now the video is getting kind of long. So I will pause here. I think this lesson is good to go. You can actually start working on the examples. These are two optional sections. We're not going over them, but yeah, definitely practice, practice, practice. I have a bunch of practice questions for you here. Just go ahead and execute on them. And yeah, stay tuned for the next tutorial. Take care, guys. Have a good one.